Known for its outstanding natural beauty and areas of protected wilderness, Idaho is a popular destination for hiking, skiing, and other outdoor recreations. For Dave Eby, that meant fly fishing, and in 1997 he purchased a piece of land by Snake River in Island Park, where he planned to open a hotel. After cutting and peeling the logs to build Angler's Lodge with his bare hands, he opened the doors to his new business in 1999.
I thought I could fly fish while I had the phone in my pocket taking reservations. And that actually happened early on.
It was a family affair, with wife Dede and the couple's children helping out in the hotel and restaurant, which was always busy, often with long lines out the door. Dave and Dede were planning to expand the lodge to cash in on their success when tragedy struck. In the summer of 2005, their youngest son, Dalton, passed away in a terrible accident. Dede turned her back on the business for 3 years, leaving her husband to keep things running.
It was a really hard time for my family, and I think it showed in the lodge. They couldn't put their whole heart into it because their heart was broken.
But 10 years after the loss of their son, business remained slow, running at about 25% of previous levels. Son Zach has stepped in to help run the restaurant, but has no previous experience in a general manager role, and doesn't feel passionate about his new position. His parents are tired and running out of ideas, so they're hoping a visit from Gordon Ramsay can turn their business around. Heading for Fisherman's Paradise on the outskirts of Yellowstone Park, Gordon is impressed by the stunning surroundings. And as he pulls into the parking lot, the curb appeal is also hard to beat. Ramsay is welcomed into the reception area by Savannah, Dave and Dede's daughter. They are surrounded by mounted fish and animal heads, which Gordon describes as a vegetarian's nightmare, as Savannah takes the visitor to meet her parents. Gordon compliments them on their gorgeous hotel, and Dave tells him how it came about. After seeing a for sale sign on a ramshackle hut by the river, he purchased the land and built a home for his family, along with a business on its banks. Dede shares that in the first 2 years, there was a 2-hour wait every night for the restaurant. But then came a change of chef and an unpopular change of menu, and then tragedy struck. After the loss of their son, standards at the lodge slipped. The couple still love the business, but are tired and don't have the energy to keep putting in the long hours. Zach, however, tells Gordon that after living in San Diego and working in some great restaurants there, he's returned to Idaho and is ready to take on the management role. Ramsay is ready to check out his room, which has an overwhelming smell of lemon air freshener. He opens the window to let in the clean river air and turns his attention to the bed.
Is someone going to make up the beds?
They are made.
I've seen dog baskets better. How old are they?
Under closer inspection, he finds what looks suspiciously like bloodstains on the covers, and he complains about the cushions smelling. As Zach leaves for the restaurant, Gordon turns over the pillows to discover a piece of sticky candy on the underside. The mattress is stained, the walls are dark and gloomy, and there's an air of neglect about the whole room. It's not the cozy lodge experience he was hoping for. His final check is the air conditioning filter, which clearly hasn't been cleaned for years. That seems to explain why the air is stale and they need so much air freshener. After a long journey, it's time to eat, and Gordon meets Chef Gina, who explains that Dave tries to save money by controlling the food ordering and the number of the servers on shift. And manager Zach is often unavailable to help as he doesn't come into work until 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Zach arrives and confirms Gina's story. Dave doesn't trust anyone else with the finances. He heads back to the kitchen to bring out the first dish, chicken wings in homemade barbecue sauce. Gordon can immediately tell that the chicken is frozen, and the sauce doesn't make it look any more appetizing. Next up is a ribeye, which is served on blood-stained vegetables. And that's followed by a dish of curry and mushy rice, with the texture of oatmeal. Gordon's ready to try Zach's recommendation, Idaho rainbow trout with herb risotto. It's served with multiple sauces around the outside, stodgy rice, and the fish has been served with the scales still on.
That has to be the worst trout I've ever seen in my entire career. Wow.
Yikes. Ramsay asks Zach what his parents think of the food, and he admits that they hate everything that Chef Gina serves. But they change the chef each year when the new season starts. And he also shares that if it wasn't the family restaurant, he wouldn't want to work there. Gordon is ready to speak to the kitchen team and is surprised to hear that Zach gave them no feedback about the food as it came back to the kitchen. It's time to share the truth with Gina, who is shocked to learn that the owners hate her food. And Gordon's own feedback isn't any better. He tells her the ribeye was served on a dish of grease that looked like it belonged in a dishwasher filter. Her sous chef laughs at the description, but Chef Ramsay doesn't find it funny. Gina tells Gordon that the eclectic mix of dishes on the menu is because she has to use the cheap ingredients that Dede provides. It certainly isn't the style of food the celebrity chef was expecting to see at a riverside lodge. He's ready to observe a dinner service. Ramsay is surprised to find Zach stationed behind the bar instead of in the kitchen, but the sous chef reveals that the general manager started the summer at the bottom of the ladder and was moved up through the ranks, fast. Gordon spots a microwave, which Dede insists they use to heat up dips, and moves on to the refrigerator, where he can't identify one of the packages he finds.
That was the collapsed cheesecake.
Looks like a landmine. What year is that from?
Like 1876.
Chef Ramsay spots that one of the servers is chewing gum, and asks Zach whether that's okay with him. He stands in nervous silence before quietly asking her to spit it out, and then excusing himself from the kitchen. Gina is also working silently and is micromanaging every dish while the other staff stand around with nothing to do. When chicken is sent back, it's ice cold to the touch. Gina's chaotic kitchen management is letting them down. Gordon calls a team meeting. He tells them that his room is dirty and shabby, and the restaurant is no better. Food is not up to standard, and the service is also poor. But it's Gina who's to blame for a lot of the issues, and Ramsay accuses her of being nuts. She had told Gordon that Dave was in complete control of the menu and the ingredients, but is forced to admit that's not true. He just asked her to compare costs between suppliers. And as for Zach, he's not managing the restaurant, and it's clear his heart isn't in it. Ramsay asks to speak to Dede alone. She tells him they've had a difficult few years, and Dave has tried to train Zach up to run the business in case anything happens to him, to ensure the family wouldn't lose everything. Dede feels guilty for walking away from the business after her son died, forcing Dave to keep the business ticking over. But he hasn't moved on from that attitude, which is preventing the hotel from returning to its former glory. The next morning, Gordon gathers the family for a chat, but Zach has something he wants to get off his chest first. He wasn't happy with how Gordon spoke to them the previous day.
I just felt like the language that you used wasn't that of an English gentleman like I would expect.
I'm deeply sorry about that.
Gordon is clearly too polite to point out he isn't English, he's Scottish. Zach goes on to tell Ramsay that he shouldn't speak like that in front of his angel of a mother, but when Gordon pushes back, Zach curses at him in front of his mother. Gordon calls him a hypocrite and carries on with the meeting. He tells Zach he doesn't show any leadership or support to the rest of the staff. Dave admits that he's concerned about Zach's performance as a manager. Next, it's time for some honest feedback from the local community. Gordon has spoken to a number of locals, who told him they were made to feel unwelcome when they visited, and much of the negative feedback is aimed at owner Dave.
The owner, seriously, well, needs help. He's a total horsey's butt.
He's disappointed to hear that his attitude is driving customers away. Gordon tells him they need to get the locals on their side if they're going to turn their business around. Ramsay has a quiet word with Dave, without the camera crew present. They go out to sit in his car, and Gordon asks why the owner is so negative and withdrawn, and where his issue with locals began. Dave explains that when he first broke ground at the site, the neighbors all complained and made life difficult. And even though the restaurant was successful when it opened, a change of chef made them all disappear once again. He has given up trying to please them. Gordon asks how he dealt with the loss of his son, and Dave tells him he was forced to return to work the very next day, as there was no one else to run the hotel. He fears that his other children were coddled after their brother's death, and while he believed they shouldn't be spoiled and should earn everything for themselves, Dede disagreed. That caused conflicts at home, leading Dave to allow Zach to run the restaurant as he wished. Gordon feels that Dave's tough exterior hides a big heart, and it's important that people start to see it. Back in the lodge, Chef Ramsay wants the couple to remember the good times at their hotel. He puts together some photos of the family building the lodge, which brings smiles to both their faces. But they are quickly followed by tears, as Dede remembers the times they shared with their children, including Dalton. Gordon feels a heart is missing from the hotel, but he's confident they can get it back if they let go of the past and look forward. Overnight, Ramsay's team works hard to transform the lodge into a premium destination. He shows them his updated bedroom, where dark red walls have been replaced with clean, neutral colors and traditional wood paneling, giving it a contemporary look and feel. Additional rooms have similar modern decor, with comfortable rocking chairs, soft blankets, and clean white sheets on every bed. The entire team loves the new look. It's time for the relaunch. Gordon has created a new menu, and his team has been training the lodge chefs to prepare the new dishes perfectly. As local guests, including a critic, arrive to sample the menu, Dave and Dede give them all a warm welcome. But in the kitchen, it's already chaos. Gina is making mistakes on the very first orders, preparing the wrong dishes, and working on entrees for one table before making their appetizers. Chef Ramsay tells her she must start communicating and delegating, but she doesn't, and insists she's used to working on her own. And Gordon tells her that she's going to sink the restaurant if she doesn't get a grip and start working as part of a team. When she tries to send an unseasoned kale salad to the critic's table, Ramsay moves her on to desserts and gets a sous chef to remake the dish. But even reheating desserts is too much for Gina.
It's cold in the middle.
Okay, I will redo
No,
it.
stop. Stop. I want you to take your apron off and then
Okay.
go home.
He steps outside, where he quietly and calmly tells Gina that she's destroying the lodge. She wants to finish the service, but he tells her not to fight it and to walk away. Gordon breaks the news to the owners that Gina can't cope with the simple menu, but the rest of the team is capable of pulling it off. The customers and critic all love the food, and the owners are happy to have a buzz back in the dining room. But Chef Ramsay has one final surprise. He's arranged for a local consultant to work with them for the next month to prepare them for a busy and successful summer season. Gordon sends the couple into the dining room to eat dinner together. It's time for him to leave, as the couple toast better days ahead. Ramsay heads to his car and struggles to get it going before deciding it's probably better that he doesn't drive in the snowstorm. Following Gordon's visit, Dave and Dede rediscover their love for Angler's Lodge and for working together, and committed to making their business a huge success once more. The Angler's Lodge episode of Hotel Hell was filmed in November 2015, but wasn't shown until 6 months later, in May 2016. Immediately prior to Gordon's visit, reviews had been pretty bad, with many visitors mentioning patchy service and poor value for money. It was clear that Gordon's impression that the beautiful building wasn't being maintained or presented well was correct, and was a view shared by guests. But immediately following his visit, reviews improved. The service and atmosphere in particular were praised, and guests felt welcome as soon as they set foot in the lodge. Unfortunately, it didn't seem to last long. Within a year, more negative reviews began to appear. Many mentioned the condition and cleanliness of the building itself, while others criticized the front desk staff, organization, and customer service. They also accused the hotel of advertising amenities that weren't provided, particularly hot tubs. Unusually, Dave and Dede didn't promote Gordon's visit or the changes he had made, and continued to show the old-style bedrooms on their website for some time. That's particularly surprising, as Dave told a local newspaper that they were hoping to benefit from the publicity that their 15 minutes of fame could bring. Despite that, the hotel must have seen a boost in numbers, as many reviewers chose to stay at Angler's Lodge because they had seen it on TV. It's unclear how many of the customers during this period were locals, who Gordon had been relying on to keep the business, and in particular the restaurant, afloat. As Dave mentioned, there had been fallouts with the neighbors when he first started the building project. It seems he failed to get the federal permission needed to build on the wetlands. When he received a complaint, he halted work on the building, but a local conservation group opposed his application for the required permit, once again stalling his plans. And it seems he didn't learn his lesson. Just 2 years later, he was once again in trouble for breaking rules regarding building on the wetlands. This time, he was granted a permit for 0.12 acres, but filled in an additional 0.22 acres, dumping rocks and silt into the river. He was ordered to remove the mess. Damaging the local environment seems like a strange choice for Dave, as he was such a keen fisherman, and his livelihood depended on the river. A few years later, the residents of Island Park rallied around and supported the couple following the tragic death of their 10-year-old son, Dalton. The fourth grader died in the summer of 2005 near his home in a horrifying accident that left his mother unable to return to work for 3 years, as mentioned. Dalton enjoyed cliff jumping, go-karting, and snowmobiling, and on this particular day was playing the pass-out game, which involves choking to achieve a type of high. While Dave and Dede had never heard of the game, it seems that it was a trend with local kids at the time, including Dalton's big brother, Zach. He described how they used to sit in certain positions or strangle themselves until they passed out, and that he too had participated, without ever realizing the dangers. Gordon's researchers had heard the family's story about 6 months prior to filming the episode, and he met them a few weeks before his visit. Chef Ramsay felt the pressure to help the family, and was determined to turn the hotel around when he realized what was at stake for them. But could Dave continue to bite his tongue and encourage the locals to support the restaurant again with a warmer welcome? The answer is, we're not sure. The hotel is still open today and continues to receive mixed reviews, currently showing a 3.6 rating on Yelp. Google reviews are a little better, with plenty of 5 stars, leading to an overall rating of 4.3. But there has been a big change at the restaurant. It seems that new owners took over the restaurant for the 2023 summer season, and customers have nothing but praise for the new team. The chef they've hired creates made-to-order dishes including handmade pasta, fresh fish, and local Wagyu beef, and apparently every bite is delicious. They certainly seem to have cracked the local audience, with residents of the area delighted to have such high-quality food on their doorsteps. The change in staff means that Zach is no longer managing the restaurant. His Facebook page suggests that he had been working in sales for a solar energy company in Hawaii since 2012. That's 3 years before he was seen working at Angler's Lodge. His restaurant manager role isn't listed, and he hasn't updated his Facebook page for some years. We don't have any more updates for him. Dave isn't a big social media user either. His last big updates were from 2020, when Island Park was covered in an extra thick layer of snow. But he was still listed as the owner and manager of the Angler's Lodge in 2023, when he filed an annual report to the state of Idaho. As for Dede, she continued to share her pain at losing a child on her Facebook page, along with uplifting religious quotes. She appears to have a lot of close and supportive friends, who are ready to help her through the rough times. She and Dave are currently spending the summers in Idaho, and the winters in California, to avoid the worst of the cold and snow. The couple are often pictured with their children around them, and appear to be happy, healthy, and enjoying plenty of time away from the lodge, just as they had hoped for. We wish the whole Eby family luck and happiness for the future, and hope that Angler's Lodge continues to be a huge success.